Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Blake Miller, who'll be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Hi, Blake.
I'm here. It's good to see a friendly face.
Yeah, even though the listeners can't see our friendly faces, we are smiling and happy and back for yet another episode of Startup Hustle, which, by the way, is brought to you by Fullscale.io, helping you build a software development team quickly and affordably. So with me today, as I mentioned, sitting in for the esteemed Matt Watson is Blake Miller. Blake's the CEO and founder of Homebase, and someone that we're going to talk to about the you're our Internet of Things expert.
And in this day of remote and contactless everything, I think we're going to be helping a lot of people kind of manage this new normal.
Yeah, and that's looking at a lot of different. We've had a lot of different discussions over the last 3 weeks. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes. I don't think we have to rehash a whole lot of those. I'm pretty sure the world is aware.
What happened?
Yeah, it's something. I mean, I fell asleep. I woke up, had this long beard, and everyone was wearing masks after. It was kind of strange. And you grew a beard. Wait, maybe you already had that.
I've had it. I actually had to trim it down. It got over the weekend. It was very gnarly. It was the full on 21 day on top of a pretty good decent beard.
I finally shaved my quarantine beard off. It was getting a little itchy. So I think people were being a little aggressive with their own ability to maintain stuff like that. Speaking of maintaining stuff, how is Homebase? And by the way, if you want to check out more about what Homebase does, go to homebase.ai. How's Homebase maintaining? How are you guys doing?
Thank you for that. Yeah. Generally everybody's doing good wherever everybody's healthy. So, on the team, we've been checking in with a lot of our clients. Everybody seems to be doing okay and just kind of figuring out, how to manage things in this kind of new environment. But Friday the 13th, we pulled everybody off of job sites where we have installers installing or retrofitting smart locks or thermostats or light switches all in apartment buildings, people's apartments. And, Friday the 13th and here in Kansas City is when, really a lot of things really started going into full kind of stay-at-home effect. And we had to make the decision to pull everybody off the job on all the jobs we had across the country because we just felt like it wasn't prudent to do that. And we've been working from home and only working in new buildings since then. So as I kind of made the joke, is finally a Friday the 13th that really lived up to its name.
I was busy trying to plot my escape from the Philippines on that day. That was and honestly doing the same thing, locking the office down, and you were a little ahead of the curve there. I don't think everyone had fully wrapped their arms around that, so I will commend you on being a front runner on that. I think it's kind of important. Stay home, stay healthy. It appears as if we're flattening the curve. So one of the things that go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I definitely think it was. I think we had some of the good fortune at the time, at the time I thought it was kind of crazy. I thought maybe people were kind of overreacting or whatever, but, for the fact that we had the Big 12 tournament here in town, the basketball, college basketball tournament, the fact that they removed people or didn't allow people and then ended up canceling the entire tournament kind of all within a 36-hour period. That was when it was kind of a wake-up call, like, man, I guess we got to really, take precaution.
Yeah, I went to bed somewhere around Thursday, the 12th of March, and I woke up and there was no more NBA and no more basketball. And I was like, whoa. And, honestly, I was kind of in the same boat. I was in that same boat as you were. I was kind of sitting there thinking, I was like, man, are we overreacting? And I wasn't really sure. I knew that the economic impact of shutting everything down would be pretty severe, but at this, and I think at that time, I think a lot of people were still learning about a lot of stuff. So, one of the things that, I've been doing a lot of reading in my quarantine, because Q time is due time is what we're saying around my place. But one of the things that I was reading was an article about it. It had a section in it talking about how platforms similar to Homebase might end up being, in the long run, being winners. If you could maybe, for those that haven't listened to episodes that you've been on prior, give us a little background about what Homebase does, and maybe a couple comments about whether or not you think you'll come out of this stronger and why.
Yeah, so we help apartment owners automate the management of their building using the Internet of Things. So things like smart locks, smart thermostats, light switches. We've even gotten into and enable community-wide Wi-Fi that not only connects all those devices, but allows residents to get connected to it, kind of like living in a hotel. We help property owners make money and save money without sacrificing the resident experience. And so what does all that mean? Basically, we help people get into an apartment building with a smartphone app. We help them pay their rent via a smartphone app. We help them change their lights, change their thermostat, do all of those things from a resident side, but then we help the property managers do all that from their own app as well. And so, we were having a lot of success and growing both with brand new apartment buildings that were putting all these brand new smart stuff in. But then also we were retrofitting a lot of apartments, putting new smart locks that help the apartment owners eliminate keys, makes the building a little bit more secure, and gives the residents the ability to get themselves in with a smartphone app or a fob into their apartment, but also share with their guests or other people like house cleaners or dog walkers. And so, the market itself, big market, growing really, really fast, and has definitely become smart things and smart technology for apartments have definitely become a big kind of amenity that apartment owners have started to install. And I would say that with this kind of new world, we've got our value prop has gone mainstream. Apartment owners are really trying to figure out, how do we keep engaged with our residents without losing or being more remote and being contactless. So being able to get people in and out of buildings has been really powerful.
So you were one of the very first, we're coming up on the 300th episode of Startup Hustle, and
that's incredible.
You were one of our, isn't that kind of weird? Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. So the one of the things that you mentioned early on was you used the phrase time arbitrage, and I'd like to revisit that, because I think that especially during economic downturns or times of uncertainty, anything that any entrepreneurial venture can benefit from a review of the things that create more efficiency or time savings for them.
Yeah, I think the future is, you said time arbitrage. And I think I think I heard that from like a Mark Cuban podcast or something like that. But basically, people are recognizing what their time's worth, whether it's because of the gig economy or whatever. But people recognize, my time's worth $20 or $100 or $500 or $1,000, whatever it might be. People are recognizing what their time's worth, and being able to help people save time is a huge luxury that, in the past has been, really only for like really kind of a luxury, thinking about it kind of like an Uber Black or something like that. But now and in the future, with smart technology, the Internet of Things like smart locks and everything, you can really start to help people have that time arbitrage and have that luxury experience in an affordable setting, where, because I can go make $50 in an hour in the gig economy or whatever, I can let the dog walker in and have my dog walked instead of having to go home and do that. And the dog walker only cost $25, but I was able to make $50 in this hour. And so you time arbitrage, you just made $25. Still got your chores done, still took care of your responsibilities. And I think that's just like the tip of the iceberg of this kind of subscription style living that can happen.
So when it comes to I've spent some time recently talking here on the show about things like, whether it's a favorable or a failing sales environment. What are you finding out there? Are more people inquiring about what you're doing? Are you kind of running into a wait and see attitude? Like what are you when you put your ear to the ground, what are you hearing?
To be honest, and I'm actually pulling up my calendar to look back because I don't even know what day it is at this point. It's just all blending together. But, I would say the first week, like the 16th, and then even into the second week of all of this, into the 23rd, is really just, it felt like every day was worse news and bad news. Not only did we feel tone deaf, and we were trying to get our fix, make sure our team's right and everything too. It's kind of felt the same thing for everybody else. So we weren't doing sales outreach. We were talking to clients. It was talking to our clients that we had and seeing how we can help them immediately and all of that. And those are areas that we've really kind of we focus on. It was kind of almost like the when you're on an airplane, they tell you to secure your own mask first. It kind of felt like that's what everybody was really doing over the first couple weeks. I would say last week, I started doing some light kind of outreach through LinkedIn and kind of asking people what they were doing, if they were starting to think. And you start to get a sense that that with the stimulus coming out and even with all this uncertainty, it felt like people are like, okay, my people are taken care of. Now I got to figure out what we're actually going to do to move kind of the world forward with what we're dealing with. And I would say, we're talking on Tuesday afternoon. I would say that this week that seems to increase a little bit more too. We've got more inbounds in the last week to 10 days. That's been up 15% or so. So it does seem like people are still trying to figure out, get their life right, and then figure out what's next.
Yeah, I agree. I think over these last few weeks, it went from like, what the fuck? That was I mentioned it and you were aware because I talked to you after I got back, yeah. But, I was in the Philippines during a lot of this and I felt like that side of the world was about, a couple weeks ahead. And on many levels, a lot more prepared because they've kind of been down this road before. But, I went from giving inspirational, here we go, let's light the rocket ship to the moon, the fuse on the rocket ship to the moon speeches to like, shit, we're closing, go home, don't come to work, we're locking the building. And then it went, can I even get out of the, I was afraid I was going to get stuck in Tokyo or something. And, yeah. Well, I didn't, fortunately. I mean, actually, my trip back was super smooth. There's nobody in an airport right now. My wife was like, are you worried that you're going to get COVID in the airport? I'm like, there needs to be people for that.
Probably the one.
Yeah, my flight
was clean.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't feel too great about the lack of masks and general preparedness when I got back to Seattle, as I told you when we talked. But there was only 6 people on my flight from Seattle to Kansas City. So that said, and that included me. So with the total flight crew, that might have been 6. So, or whatever, but it was pretty interesting. So, what you mentioned earlier, the stimulus, I mean, what are your thoughts on that and how that's going to affect, us as entrepreneurs? Or, I mean, I'd be honest, I like it. I mean, why wouldn't I? I think I've never seen anything that came out of the box that strong and that quickly. The SBA is certainly not known for speed. But we've already been approved at Fullscale. And now that only covers a portion of our issues because we only have 7 employees in the US and 183 somewhere else. So the 183 get no relief there, but it's certainly been helpful, or it will be helpful for us. I mean, what's your outlook on that for everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone needs to, go after it in some level if you've been affected. The reality of it is, and this is just my opinion, I don't know that it's enough. I don't know that it's going to get money in hands fast enough. And I don't think it's going to be, I think we're going to have to keep going kind of to the well, because I don't think anybody has any certainty of how long this is going to last. And then furthermore, how long it's going to take to kind of restart our economy. Like, everything is so circular right now. It's a hard word.
Say that 5 times in a row really fast.
But everyone is affected by this, and I've got so many friends that own restaurants and bars and all these things, and for everyone's sake, like, I hope they get money out fast enough. I hope they get more money out, because it keeps paychecks going to people, but it's more importantly going to have our way of life to come back to. And as touchy as a subject is, of like bailing out airport or airlines and all of those things, like, well, we want to be able to travel again. We want to be able to stay at hotels again. We want to be able to do all of these things that just a short 30 days ago was totally normal. I think we're going to have to throw a lot of money at it. And I've heard anywhere between like 50% of our GDP for the year is going to get cut in half. Well, it sounds like we got to spend $10 trillion then. Where's this going to go?
Pretty intense, right?
It is crazy. And I don't, it's funny. It's funny money at this point, but what's the alternative?
America's greatest innovation to date is the Mint.
Yeah. But what's the alternative?
Think about that. I got to be honest with you. Like, anything that I felt that I understood about economics or the stock market, I threw it out the fucking window, man. Like, I'm like, wow. So,
we're taking
just
from our
print
future.
more money.
Yeah. Are we taking from our future? Absolutely. Are we going to have to pay for this? Absolutely. But what's the alternative? Having 40 million people unemployed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's about where it was heading too.
Yeah. Who knows what this is, and nobody knows. And that's the thing. But I can promise you, if you don't have money in people's hands in the next few days, and really get this going and give people some semblance of normalcy, then I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, there's a socioeconomic impact that at one point when I was in college at Kansas University, go Jayhawks, I thought that I wanted to become I wanted to become a sociologist. Mm-hmm. And then I realized I probably wouldn't make any money doing that. So I decided to go another route. But, one of the things that, and I mentioned that socioeconomic impact is, there are like very, very predictable factors that are likely to occur when you remove social institutions, and meaning like welfare, food stamps, unemployment benefits. And the biggest one is that levels of crime, skyrocket. Because if you put people in desperate situations and people are going hungry or they're just desperate for anything, then they fucking steal. It's just like, it's kind of like, what are you going to do? Not feed your baby or go steal some bread? And,
right.
And so a lot of that, there can be a ripple effect. And then, just like I recorded in the last episode that we recorded, we had Thad Langford, Thad from Flyover Capital. Yeah. And, we were just talking about a whole lot of other stuff. Like, there's a level of founders depression and just like an entrepreneur, I've had some sentiment.
The absolute stress, and nobody has even touched that. The absolute stress and the mental trauma, the PTSD that's going to come out of this.
And that was the term he used. He said, I still have PTSD from 2008.
Sure. Think about this. I'm 35. I'll be 36 in July. When we're getting out of college, slapped with 2008, 2009. You've got an entire generation now that's had two massive crises at the start of their career. This we already have mental health issues. We already have all of these things that people have started really recognizing. Like this is the next trauma of this virus is going to be the mental health virus, the mental health disease, the trauma of all those things, the isolation of everybody else. Like that's what I'm really scared about. Like that's the stuff that's going to be really tough.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we've kind of come to the conclusion of, though, is as entrepreneurs, we're kind of used to the ups and downs. You know, I'm sure you've seen a meme at some point. It's like starting the day on top of the world, and by noon, you're like, "Fuck, this is gonna fail." You know, but so on some levels, you know,
30, 40 days, you know, just with all this,
yeah,
right?
well, having days like that before all this,
yeah, right.
On some, I mean, on some levels, like I said, I mean, here's the thing: is I get, you know, you kind of go through that processing phase, and then I think what you arrive at is, okay, this is just a different version of another problem. You know, and it has to become very black and white and very zeros and ones. And, you know, and that's the thing is, and I know a lot of people are going to listen to this and say, oh, it's not that easy, Matt. Well, in the end it is, because, you know, like it really, anything in the end boils down to kind of yes or no, black or white. That's why binary is what it is.
It's choosing how you're going to respond. Right.
Yes.
You know, we can sit here and feel bad for ourselves. We can sit here and be like, holy shit, nobody would even understand the types of conversations, the type of crisis that has been dealt with over all of this, all while trying to figure out how to, you know, get to the next level and do all these things. Nobody will ever understand that. But, you know, how do you get to that next level? What are you going to do about it? And you can sit here and feel sorry for yourself. You can do whatever, or you can say, okay, it happened. What's next? What are we going to do? Stop feeling sorry for yourself.
You know, one of the things that Thad Langford said multiple times that I even wrote it down. It's just, he said, you just have to survive in advance. It's almost like the Hunger Games or something. You know, it's like
March. Like I think I tweeted something like that. It was like survive in advance is going to have a whole new meaning in March for entrepreneurs after this. You know, that's all. It is. Survive.
I saw another one that said, congratulations, you've made it to April and the next level of Jumanji. Just like,
well, just another meme, you know, where like, thank God March is over, and then like the meme is like Independence Day, April.
By the way, Independence Day, I'm making this prediction, and I've said this a bunch. I think that's going to have a whole new meaning for us this year, because I think that's going to realistically be the real time that people are going to start regaining some faith in public. Okay, so anyway, back to IoT. I mean, what's your outlook on the whole IoT industry and how this impacts it? Anywhere from like maybe you're an early stage and you're trying to get funded, or maybe you're in your boat where you've already got traction and you're moving forward. And now, I mean, what's your industry outlook, your concerns, and your prophecies, sir?
Man, that's if I really knew, I'd be sitting in the money. You know, everything I'm hearing.
You got to take a shot. Take a shot.
Yeah, everything I'm hearing is funding is drying up. You know, everybody's a wartime CEO now. You know, figure out how to get to profitability, which we were already on. You know, doing kind of all those things, but it's wartime, and money is probably not going to be flowing. Valuations are going to be cut. You know, VCs and whoever are you know, their LPs aren't wanting to do capital calls. You know, all of these things. So I think it's going to be like everybody's kind of prophesizing. I think it's going to be rough out there. But all that said, I think it's going to you know, make the great companies shine. And you know, hopefully this doesn't last through the end of the year. I think if we can get back to normal this summer, I think we'll have a recovery by the end of the year, and people will really kind of get back to normal, hopefully.
I think there's something strangely Darwinistic about these things when they come through. I don't even know if strangely is the right term, but there's always some interesting or sketchy businesses that disappear.
Yeah.
Like you look back at 2008. I mean, dude, there was a whole level of finance and mortgage and all different kinds of shit that just did not belong. I mean, it was reckless. And, honestly, I'm not fully sure what that's going to be this time. I think that, we've been trying to examine the winners and the losers. I mean, obviously, I think that this is going to permanently change the face of retail. I think this is going to extinguish and lead to the extinction some retail practices and chains. I think that I think that people wrapping their arms around remote work is going to be on an upswing like you've never seen. And that's the thing too. It's like
change, not in remote work for sure, but I think it's going to change like the concept of the 9 to 5. And maybe I should change that to say, I hope it changes the concept of the 9 to 5. I hope it doesn't change the fact that we still go to offices and this is just going to be different. But I think people are recognizing you don't have to be just totally tied down like that 9 to 5 and get your work done if you're working remote that day. As long as it just something's done. There's going to be time sensitive stuff, and not all jobs can be that. But my hope is that it kind of changes the concept of how we get work done.
Yeah, I agree. And we look at Fullscale and we use. Pardon?
I'm just saying, family time's important. Those sorts of things.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if your yard doesn't look good during this time, then you just give up. Yeah. Is that true?
I'm sorry.
My yard. Oh, I said if my yard doesn't look good during this time, then I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. So, we've always used Fullscale as one of the examples, and it's a company that Watson and I both own, and we've definitely taken a hit on revenue when it came to some of our clients. I think a lot of it is precautionary, and then we have some clients that do things related to travel, events. Different stuff, automotive, things that are just dead in the water right now. And then on the flip side, we've got our level of inquiry from new client, like our new client activity, just people going to the Fullscale website. If you want to check it out, go to fullscale.io. And, just it's remained the same. Now it does not necessarily been translating into new clients starting now, but I'm feeling a surge of them coming once some of this economic relief and a little more clarity, a little more clarity starts to form around the whole situation. You look at things like, we were discussing whether, so during times like this, are you being stubborn or are you waiting? And there's a difference because I'm trying this has been a big week for me because last week I couldn't have told you how much we qualified for in PPP because we didn't even know what to calculate, what they were going to look for, the likelihood of it being, then you have other things too, like for example, you've been in the Fullscale suite at the Sprint Center, when's that opening again? Right. And and because of that, I mean, we're having discussions about delaying and deferring payments. Little things you talk about a scale of having 183 employees. I'm used to spending $15,000 a month on food at our office in Cebu. Well, right now the whole city's on a lockdown. So some of these things is, you mentioned there's a difference between waiting and being stubborn. In my opinion, waiting to gather all the facts. There's some people that knee jerked and cut their whole staff 3 weeks ago and are probably looking at that right now going, fuck, what do we do? Yeah. Cause here's the thing, you're going to get a free roll from the government. Now, one of the things with that is I did the math on this. So that $350 billion is enough to cover about 1.3 million small businesses. There are a reported 30.2 million small businesses in the U.S. Now, I think a lot of the big ones and the larger piece of that pie was probably a little more prepared to apply and get that out, and probably the bigger tranches of the loans are going to go out in the front, but they are going to have to go back to the well on that a lot. So
They're going to have to, and it's either that or you got to have universal basic income. And I know I have friends that are like, "This sucks. I'm not getting anything," and it's like, well, you got to hope that your small business or the company that you work for like can just keep paying you the paycheck that you have, and that the rest of these people get something so that there's a semblance of life that you can come back to.
Yeah. Well, that's been the whole argument. And, I don't get too political, but I'm not really known for like quoting Trump or like being too impressed with him overall. But, there's one thing, it's like, if the cure is worse than the disease, it can be a problem. And that's been my concern with this the whole time around March 13th or 14th, I had made a comment on Facebook asking if we were going to look back at this as having hysteria. Now, I feel a lot differently about it, but at the time I was like, shit, what are we going to do? Because if we don't have anything, like you mentioned prior, if we don't have the normal things to come back to and the things that we identify and create an identity around, I mentioned go Jayhawks. Well, Kansas was number 1 in basketball going into the tournament. Right. As a KU fan, what a shitty thing to occur. I was talking to Joel Goldberg, and we published something, I don't know, a week or two ago. He's like, I don't even know if we're going to play baseball this year. I'm hoping.
I was just hearing that it sounds like they've got a plan to go back. They're basically creating like a biosphere, a biodome. They're all going to stay in Arizona, and they're all just going to play like 7-inning doubleheaders and knock out the season.
And who would have thought that Pauly Shore had it right with the biodome, right?
That's all I can keep thinking about, right? But
is Pauly Shore in the biodome?
I wish, right? But
no doubt.
With everybody else, if everyone else is going to stay home, and which they should, and do all these things, I think it's great that we can come up with innovative ways that we can get some semblance of life back, right? We can get baseball back, and that'll help continue to heal people and be able to watch that. I see people giving shit to Dana White because he wants to get a fight next week or whatever. It's like, well, fuck yeah, that's awesome. If those guys are willing
to do it on a private island,
it's like, you're telling me that with literally everything else canceled, you're going to say he's being negligent? Like, these guys are going to be tested, these guys are going to do everything, and these guys are going to go fight each other. I know that sounds like I'm just being very flippant about it, but I think these are things that we need as like humans. Hey, things are going to get back to normal, and I commend them for pushing forward and finding ways to do that.
I called my dad yesterday and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm watching the 1960 Masters." And I said, "Uh-oh, man." And I said, "How bad would you love a Memphis Grizzlies versus Orlando Magic game right now?" And he goes, "I'm getting really close to that, man. I'm getting really close." And my dad's not even an NBA fan. So on some levels, you talk about the biodome or baseball, like any of this stuff. Dude, you would have some ratings. That's for sure. And, while that gate revenue doesn't hurt, you would definitely have some people watching. So, once again, pardon?
The captive audience much?
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. Once again, with us today, we have Blake Miller, the CEO and founder of Homebase. If you want to learn more about Homebase and what they do, you can go to homebase.ai. If you want to learn a little bit more about the business that I own, you can go to fullscale.io. We help you build software development teams quickly and affordably. So, Blake, as we close out this episode of Startup Hustle, and this is what maybe your 4th time on here, so I believe you've been through the Founders Freestyle at some point. We like to end a lot of our episodes with just a little general advice giving. I will let you go first, and then I'll follow up.
Wow. Didn't even have any time to think about that. I think that.
Sure you did. You did it last time, didn't you?
I don't remember this, but I think just good general advice.
You get better answers when you're not warned.
Yeah, for sure. I think good.
There you go. I bought you like 30 seconds.
Perfect. I think good general advice for anybody right now is just to be kind and be patient with everybody. I think everybody's trying to figure out what's going on here, and I think be kind, be patient, but then take care of your people, take care of your tribe, do the best that you can, and I think trying to have empathy for everybody right now is really like the best advice that I could give, because I think that's what we all need right now. Because for the most part, I don't think anybody's doing anything very nefarious right now. They're just trying to survive.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that overall, if you just, you have to decide if you want to sink or swim. And if swimming is your choice, then start kicking those legs and flapping those arms, point yourself in some general direction. The thing is no one knows what the future is going to hold. I mean, you look at some things like the PPP loans and different stuff like that. And, if you didn't get an application, and keep trying. I mean, get in line. I mean, as far as, at Fullscale, we saw that coming and realized that was like part of the CARES Act. And we were calling banks 10 days before the actual applications could be put in. And we ended up utilizing our own bank for that, which hadn't been our ideal lending partner in the past. So, there's you just got to try to create some relationships and get your stuff in and around the situations that make the most sense. And like I said, decide you want to swim and start moving those legs and arms.
Totally agree. You just got to do the best you can.
Speaking of which, I'm going to get back to swimming, Blake. Thanks for hanging out, man. I'll see you next time.